say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah, yeah. I'm back in that. Hey, where you going? Hey.
I'm never going to get tired of that intro. Hey, welcome to SPL Waiting. I almost always forget the name of the damn show. SPL Waiting Room, your one-stop shop for all things SMITEPro League. And we are going to be having a fun day today, man. I'm feeling it. I got a little like energy. And I think it's just because we spent a few minutes talking about like fantasy stuff. Also looking at the schedule for next week.
He's been playing that hockey game.
I've also been playing that hockey game. It gets the blood pumping, buddy.
That does.
And you know,
yeah, buddy.
yeah, buddy.
Yeah, guy.
I sound more Canadian the more stuff I have to do with hockey. I've been watching a lot of it too. The playoffs. Of course, you were watching.
Yeah, I was,
Hey,
Gorm.
man.
I was watching the playoffs. I was watching.
Sometimes you just gotta rip the
Sounds like a
Band-Aid
sore
off.
subject between those two over there.
Well, so my team didn't make it. They were out by a point.
We can
But
talk
that
about
being
this all
said,
day.
it was super happy. Dave's team lost in the first round after having like
A historic season. The most wins
like,
ever
quite
in the
literally
regular season.
set a huge record.
it's
It was
okay.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about
Has
it.
nothing to do with the SPL. I also think it was like one of the biggest point gaps between. Anyway, it was the second largest point gap between top and bottom teams that we had ever seen, and then blah 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 blah. We could quite literally talk about that all day. Instead, we're going to talk about week one. We're going to talk about last week, and as well look at some beautiful graphics to help us and aid us in remembering what had happened. Now, for those of you who are wondering, where do you get these beautiful things? And wow, they really do synopsize the SPL in such a easy, digestible fashion. Well, you can go to twitter.com or reddit.com or Instagram and follow Blues Ultra on any of those platforms. Blues makes these fantastic graphics, catches some interesting things like last week we had learned, I believe Scream had finished a Rage, in 4.5 minutes, which was kind of insane. Things like that will be thrown up there. You know, the first Bastion that gets taken down, first towers, first Fire Giants, where they're going, what your teams are doing, where the focus is, the splits are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as well as looking at some of the players that are popping off. Hardcore, BMT. I will admit, like,
BMT,
those
the whole
are
top line.
for,
That's right.
What is that? That is week 2. Hardcore has the highest KDA in phase 1 period right now. Unsurprisingly followed by other Kings members because they're just playing real well and beating everybody down pretty easily, as it seems. But yeah, you can follow those all on Blues Ultra. Anything that stands out from last week? I know I actually, because I went to the Ren Fair on Saturday, so I apparently missed a nice little like barn burner between the Ravens and the Dragons.
Yeah, you missed that. That was a good set. There was also one set where Trelli and I watched. It was a 19-minute and 10-second level 20.
Nice.
So I think
beating
that's
out
one of
the
our,
previous record.
of 19. What was it? 1944.
1944 from Barra on Isa, I believe, and it might be on there. My eyes don't work very well.
I don't see it, but yeah, I believe it was at 1910 to 1912, somewhere around there. It was
My eyes don't work well.
They don't.
I think it's Panatom Bakasura, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Panatom, Bakasura. That's a good
Yeah,
combo.
I feel like the games were a little faster this weekend. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
a longer meta. It still feels like we're
Yeah.
waiting for EFG,
But they got a better grasp on it this time.
but it does feel like there were a couple games that felt a bit faster.
that were maybe like dominating, and let's say they earned a lot of points, like in a fantasy league.
In some
or-
fantastical
well,
sense.
yeah,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and something like that.
Only we could track that.
Segue. This is where fantasy comes in. So first and foremost, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes down to fantasy. We have matchups, one official matchup every week, and that is Jordan. That is you, the community who helped draft that team, playing against somebody in the draft, whether it's one of us, Mifflin, Hazer, or Frost. A lot of potential there. And this week, his matchup was against Dave. So last week, if you remember, I actually beat him. This week, he played up against Dave.
That's so many points,
And
though.
beat by...
That's so many points. Last week, no one broke 300 except Trelli, and you're telling me I lost by 6 points this
Yeah,
week?
lost by 6
Yeah.
this week.
Oh, my
buddy.
God.
yeah, that's
How?
That's
Who
close.
costed me? No one. Everyone did well. His
About to
team just
say-
went off.
Well,
Yeah.
Stu getting
Oh,
27.
Stu at 27. is
Jordan
brutal.
has hardcore
That's the
as well.
gap.
That helps.
The Stu to Yark gap is literally it. Everyone else is like 9 or 10 away. But Dart has diffed Paul this week.
I was about to say your Saab beat out Scary by 18. Wrong, you got a little bit diffed by Mike.
Yeah,
So you got duo diffed.
Mike and Yark just absolutely owned this week.
You got duo
Yeah.
diffed, Dave. I'm sorry to say.
I had to have been like second in the league though. I had to have beaten everyone but
I'd have
Jordan.
to go look and
Maybe?
see. You had 322. Actually, no. Jordan was relatively. Yeah, wait. We have the full screen. We can show you
So I
how
lose to
everybody else
Jordan?
did. You guys were like 4th and 5th.
Wow.
Did everyone
We
just
had
go
some
off?
real,
Hold on.
real bangers.
Myth is the
What?
only one who didn't break 300 this
Gore,
week.
Yeah.
Gore beat me by less than a point.
I
Yeah.
beat you by literally less than a point, and that's actually
Wait,
where
I tied Hazer?
the under the table matchups that there are. Right, Jordan versus Dave. That's the official. By the way, community, since you won. I believe it's on Sundays. There's going to be drops in Smite Game Chat, Hazer Chat, and Frost Chat for you that you can just earn because you won this
That's
week
right.
of fantasy.
You're welcome. I threw on purpose.
Some of the under the table matchups there were Jmac versus Frost. You won that one pretty handily.
Let's go.
Hazer versus Myth, as we can see. Hazer won that pretty handily. And then Trelli, there was me and you. Quite literally less than a point separating us.
Wow.
That's insane.
I could have got back-to-back firsts if
You could have.
So who was it?
I'm not wrong, right?
So
Last
Are we
week.
right next to each other? Where are
It
you?
was Gore and then Trelli.
43.3. It was fine, okay, and variety. It seems like is the main difference that like has the biggest gap.
But look at
Although
Kassir
your
and
I
Marbach,
was gonna
bro.
say,
That's a
huge
coach.
fatty gap.
No,
Marbach
Maybe
got
like
80?
Barrow.
How does a coach get 80 points?
Now that's actually something we were looking at, but they rack up points because we've seen so many objectives.
Yeah, objectives have been insane.
Because that's where the
What in
coaches'
the
points
world?
are going. So for anyone curious how the coaches are getting points, 1.5 point for Gold Fury, 2 points for a fire, 2 points per win. And then if it's a 2-0, they get 4 additional points. So if it's a 2-0 sweep, you get 8 points.
just for winning.
Just for being there, which is why Biggie is just absolutely slaughtering people.
Poor Sino. Sino's the
yeah,
lowest
Sino,
of the week, right?
Yeah.
the only one to not hit double digits.
Here are the fun facts that Tristan has sent me.
Oh.
Which is Sino, lowest scoring player at 9.8.
Yep.
Actually, funny that Oof is put there because that's also what he wrote down. At his lowest player at 9.8,
That's my video editor, baby.
Oof. Netroid was the highest scoring player at 89.7.
Nice.
The Ravens are the highest scoring team at 858.5. The Onis are in second with 836. So
sense.
about a 20-point gap right there. And the Gladiators, unsurprisingly, are the lowest scoring team at 353.2. So about a 500 gap between the top and bottom.
Yeah, I see Kierme at 55 points. His
Yeah.
next closest is his coach at 28.
Now, when it
from
comes
this
to the leaderboard for us,
That's all
right.
I care about.
Oh, yeah.
you know,
The
8
overall.
SPL teams, but really eight fantasy dudes. Frost is at the bottom with 577.
Ooh.
Now, jump up about 100 from there. It's me and Dave. I'm at 688 total. You're at 686 total.
Okay.
So we're right neck and neck. Then it's 652, 42, 34, 34. You're actually, like, you and Miff are 0.5 apart right now.
Oh, well, hold on. It's just like third and
Oh,
fourth
sorry.
apart?
I lied to you. That's Jordan and Mifflin
Oh.
are 0.5 apart. It's 634.7 for Jordan, 634.2 for Miff. And then, so I'm at 688. Go up 95 from there, and that's where Trelli is sitting. He is 100 points, essentially, ahead of everybody, and 200 above the bottom. So,
Wow.
That
How
Ven
does that
Barra
feel?
stack is unreal.
I
thought
remember
you were-
being called Trelli with 3 L's after that draft. They said he's going to need an extra L for how bad this draft
Oh,
was.
man.
no, you needed the extra L, apparently, to hand it out to everybody else.
That's
At
right.
this point. Holy.
You need to donate some of those L's, man.
Yeah.
All I know is Frost should be getting a little nervous. 100-point deficit is going to be hard to.
What do you
to
guys
overcome,
What do you guys
yeah.
think he would look cute in though? Is what I should
Well,
be
it's not
thinking
up
about.
to me, right? It's up to you.
Yeah, if you guys could give me
Right,
some
right.
pointers, I'd
So
love
let's
it.
see. We gotta take Frost into account. You can go with like Harajuku Neath.
Yeah,
That'd be a good one.
that would be good.
Hawaii
You're right.
Pop Bastet comes to mind as well if you want some cutesy
I want to hear
skins.
him say, "What's
Bastet
the?"
John.
Yeah, Bastet
There
John
was a
in his
really good-
buttery voice.
Kawaii Pop, this is super, sort of relevant. There's a really good Kawaii Pop Bastet cosplayer at like season 2 or season 3.
Yeah, I
Worlds.
remember them.
Well, you're about to see another really good one.
Yeah.
Well, Trelli, and you know what?
In quotes.
You can call this good news, bad news. You will be the matchup for chat next week.
Ooh.
So, chat, I've got bad news, and that's that Trelli's team has
Kinda
been
slamming.
slapping everybody down. But I've got good news. Trelli's team has a doubleheader this week
Oh.
because the Ravens are going to be playing the Warriors and the Kings.
Ooh.
So that might shake up
That
the
could-
fantasy
that-
points
that definitely
quite a
could.
bit. So chat, keep watching. You got to watch those Ravens games to see if Trelli's going to beat Jordan. Who does Jordan got again? You need to really hope that.
So Jordan's got Scary D. That's a harsh one.
Jordan kind of dipped across.
Yark was nice.
He's got Oath, and Oath is doing pretty good. PBM and Yark Hor. He's got like 3 really solid.
Yeah, look, all I'm going to say is that Scary D's on the Gladiators, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're playing the Warriors and the Kings this week. So, chat, this is going to be a real interesting week for fantasy because I feel like it's a competition. Who's going to have some lower scores? Maybe the Ravens pop off, though.
Okay, no, I've got the Hounds.
They definitely could.
I'm good.
Yeah, there's a man.
And Lasper's been a big earner for me, regardless.
I will say I'm impressed that Aurora hit almost 26 points when he dropped a 0-9-0 of his first game of the weekend.
Yeah, it was definitely rough.
That was wild.
We can move on from this though, and instead start talking about the rest of the actual SPL, not just the fantastical stuff, the overarching stuff. Instead, we can talk about like SPL and specifically the leaders right now because we have 2 teams that are still undefeated: the Kings, the Warriors. Both of them are going to be playing the Gladiators in one of their sets this week. I think the Kings play the Gladiators first. The Warriors will play the Ravens, and then they do-si-do swap partners. Kings will then play the Ravens. Warriors will then play the Gladiators. So it's interesting to think about that one of these sets, no real offense meant to the Gladiators, but one of these sets is kind of free for both of these teams, right? Like if the Gladiators, they have a chance to play like massive upset, but it's almost approved that they're each going to get one more win. The question is about that Ravens set, and more so, do we think one of these teams is finally going to get hit with a loss, and which one falls first? And Trelli, you're a big Ravens boy, so we're gonna go to you and see who do you think loses to them.
I am a Ravens believer. Unfortunately, I was asked to give my standings before this split begun, and I did say that 1-2 spot was going to be the Kings and the Warriors. So it's going to be difficult. I don't think that the Gladiators have shown us that they can compete at that level versus, upsetting.
That's not going to be the part where they topple.
I would love to see it. It'd make for an interesting watch, but I don't think yet they have reached that level of synergy. The Ravens have the ability. It really does just depend on, I guess, how slow they want to play the early game up against the Kings and how fast they can match the pace against the Warriors. As of now, I would say that neither one of them are taking a loss, though.
Yeah, that's the hard part. And there's something, at least specifically for the Ravens Warriors matchup later that I want to dive into. But right now, focused on just the Kings and the Warriors, Dave. How are you feeling about their trajectory? Is this a week where either of them eat a loss?
No.
Are either of them going to eat a loss at this point?
No.
It feels like they just can't lose.
No, I don't think either of them lose this week, to be honest. Until they face one another, I don't know. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to beat either of these 2 teams. No, I think ultimately both teams will win this weekend. However, I think it's just gonna come down to who the Warriors play the Ravens first. Is that what we determined?
The Warriors play the Ravens
and then they flip
this week. And it's Ravens Glads for them, and then Glads Ravens for Kings.
And so just because of that, my answer would be that if I have to choose a team that's going to lose, it's going to be the Warriors because they're the team that has to play the Ravens first. And I think the Ravens are a team that can match the Oni Warriors. I could see that set going 3. I think that the Ravens are proving to be a pretty clean team. If Scream can outpace Panatom a bit early in that game, I see an opening for the Ravens. That said, I don't think Warriors or Kings are gonna lose this week. Something tells me that they're gonna have another good week.
Well, I've got good news for anyone who's excited about good Smite, because what you had said was until they play each other, and that happens May 14th. So that's a week from this upcoming Sunday. I think you're not going to be here. I made the schedule for that week for the commentary schedule earlier. I don't look at the games ahead of time. I put myself on that one. I'm really excited. Nice. That's going to be a very, very fun, very, very fun set. Jmac, same thing. Do you see either of these teams? I guess literally until the 14th, are either of them eating a loss before then? And then in that matchup, who loses?
I think that this is one that honestly both of the top teams can lose up against the Ravens. The Ravens have been playing a lot cleaner as the season has gone through. The Warriors, I think, are the more likely to drop to the Ravens in one, just because we have seen historically over these first couple of weeks that they get a first game win, They have a little bit of fun in game number 2. Sometimes that game number 2 doesn't go so well, and then they end up going to a game 3. Or they draft these really oddball compositions that are only really working because of how aggressive the Oni Warriors are willing to take it. I think that a lot of it will come down to the draft for the Oni Warriors because there's not really a question on their play on field. The Oni Warriors are one of the most mechanically gifted teams that we have in the league individually. I think it comes down to how they draft up against these squads because the Kings are playing probably the cleanest Smite of everybody in the league. The Ravens, I would probably put next up there as far as a clean game of Smite where very little errors are being made. They're not fumbling around objectives. They're not throwing massive leads or anything like that, except for the one time against the Hounds, and that was kind of I don't want to call it a fluke, but that was just a misstep on their part. I think that if a team goes down first between the Kings and the Warriors to the Ravens, it would be the Warriors. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens just took both of them out and they walked out.
They both lose, and
then they both lose. They both go down. So technically, it would be the Warriors
away from the burning battlefield with their wings
it would
spread
technically
wide.
be, I guess, the Warriors first in that case if it happened. I think it could go either way. I think that both of our undefeated teams could stay undefeated this week.
Yeah.
I think they can both drop to the Ravens or even just one of them through.
Well, the good news is that this week starts like soon, right? So we're not gonna have. It's not like we're sitting and like an anticipate. Like we're not doing this like 3 weeks in advance trying to figure this out. So we'll get to at least see some of that. The other part is that some changes have come in Tuesday that affect this week, right? You actually did a segment.
I did.
With the mid laners, but
There
now we
was
get to
some
talk about it.
bonus balance.
For us, the bonus patch that comes through, and there was a lot of stuff that changes, right? I think what we saw, we saw some mage items hit, crit items hit, and then like 2 gods hit, like Afro and Marty.
This is what we balanced for.
We did balance.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've talked about this twice now. I'm the expert on bonus
Okay, wait,
balance.
third
3
time's the
times.
charm. So whatever you're about to say is the official Trelli
That's word.
stance on
Yeah,
that.
so I talked to the mid laners. They said, mages not feeling too good. Hunters got nerfed but are still strong. You can go Kins or crit, which is from a balance standpoint what the developers wanted, right?
Yeah.
Now you have your option. So maybe seeing more hunters in the mid lane. If it's a really good matchup,
Not again.
yeah, that's what they said. If the matchup calls for it, there will still be some mage play, of course, but wouldn't be surprised if Marty is still top pick, top ban. More often than not, you're not hitting every charge of that ultimate, and it's not really the initiation tool you'd think. It shreds prots, but it's usually lose like a Rama snipe, right? To just clean up kills in the backline. So that nerf didn't hurt Marty too much.
You just gotta, he nailed it. Does anybody like?
I've done 2 segments on it so far.
Dude, he's an expert.
It was
I
hard.
don't even know what to ask Ezra.
Charlie, your word is law at this point.
God.
You
When I
have
was-
written it in stone.
When I was balancing on my car to do the bonus balance segment,
You got like, and not just like you didn't for half. What half butted is the polite term? I don't know.
Half-hearted?
You got on the top of the car.
I did. And I realized that I needed to stand towards the back of the roof because dead center it still bows in. Right, there's not like support all up
Yeah.
under that. It's just kind of, it's metal, but it's not like
Yeah.
sturdy metal. And so I stepped in the middle and it went dunk. And I stepped
Is that
back.
still there?
And it took a second to pop out. And I was like, oh,
I have
God.
a dent in the hood
And then
of
I
my
popped
car
back
from
in
that.
it and it went back up.
I actually think it was before you were here. We did a Paladins infomercial, and I rolled over the hood of my car.
Yeah.
And the idea was that it was like rejuvenate the item, and when you slap that on my car, and it turned into Nick's
Remember
car.
Rejuve tape?
Because Nick's car was a Camaro, so it was like my 2012 Kia, whatever, to a nice bright
Right, a
yellow
nice-
Camaro.
Of course you had a Camaro,
And
right?
my car still has a dent in the hood from when my at the time almost 300 pounds rolled over it. That was interesting. Anyway,
so
you were
that-
balancing on your car.
Yeah, no, Trelli did a really good job on the bonus balance stuff, so I was discussing something that had to do with me around the bonus balance.
yeah. How do you feel about Marty?
Like
'Cause
personally,
we've heard that crit.
like
apparently
personally,
is
how do
now
I
gonna
feel
be
about
balanced.
him? Like, do
Yeah,
I
so the
do I
exact
want
thing
to
was,
see more?
I wrote Marty nerf. Is he, or I didn't even put is he, just still high priority?
Got it from
Question mark.
from an actual like analysis
Yeah.
basis.
Or your personal.
Yeah, I think personally,
Personally, he's a jerk.
He seems like a mean old man.
It's pretty
I
mean-spirited.
like mages in the mid lane. I don't hate hunters in the mid lane. I don't like it when the hunters are better than mages in the mid lane. I like them being an option, but I don't want them being the go-to.
The
Yeah.
optimal choice.
Right. Yeah, I think Marty will be in a similar spot where actually at first I was surprised that Marty had such a bad win rate. Wasn't he picked 15 times?
Yeah, his
and
win
it only
rate...
won 30% of his games or something like that.
He was doing a lot of losing in duo lane. He was being first pick for duo a lot and doing a lot of losing. BMT brought him in mid, and I think that
it's just
opened
the
up
same as
everybody's
AMC,
eyes.
right?
After 2 weeks, he's still he's been first picked 7 times. He's lost 6 of those games.
Because the issue was people were like, hey, this god's really good. And they're like, wait, we can't do fire if we put this god in duo. What if we just have 2 hunters and one of them builds crit? Now Marty gets to be the free caster he wants, and then you also get to kill fire.
Well, I think about the Dragons. They're a team with Dardes and Vote that love playing double ADC comps, and Marty was already really strong. And despite a nerf for them, Marty was already really strong. And so I think teams like the Dragons who love those types of comps anyway, they're still gonna high prio Marty. I don't think this removes him from the SPL meta at all.
Honestly, it maybe seems like it balances itself out, right? He got hit with a couple of nerfs.
Yep.
But if Crit got hit with nerfs, all those hunters that otherwise would have been that's the go-to are brought down, and then hunters in mid, that's where he was doing well anyway. So it's feels like his stock is
the alternative was also nerfed.
Yeah, so he's just good.
He's still there.
Okay, never mind. I was hoping.
I mean,
all I remember was it Marty nerf.
Yeah, I mean, even talking with BMT in his post game after the King set where he played Marty both times. Even he was saying he's shocked at how little Marty was being played at mid, just because he felt like, as we keep calling him, kind of like a second form of AMC. Because I don't want to call him budget AMC, because it feels like he does
AMC.
more than what AMC did between everything he has into his kit. So I think that it was surprising how long it took for him to hit the mid lane, because that's where I thought we'd see is Marty here plus Cernanos or Rom or Ishtar, whatever other crit hunter in the dual lane, and you just run this double hunter, play Marty like a burst mage, because that's what everybody's build path has been. All the games that either I've played as Marty in mine or have played against has always just been the burst mage style of hunter. So I was very surprised to see that Vote was playing him over in dual lane that same way. Not with the build, but the fact he was being played in dual lane with just another standard mage there. I think he works best in mid, and now that all the other crit hunters in the lane where he wasn't already not great in, going to be seeing less of them, probably more of these mid hunters pop up. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I'm now expecting a bunch of first picks Marty's.
Yep.
Because I think Hercules was also up pretty high on that, but his win rate was a little shaky after week 2, right? Did really well week 1. I think week 2 some teams learned how to handle it, or maybe they just let it through. I'd have to double check. Maybe they just let it through for the bad teams and beat them. We'll see all that. That's this weekend talk. And speaking of this weekend talk, it's week 3, and that's what's next. Week 3 of the SPL.
Whoa.
And what we're going to be watching. And that is
Snuck
not
up on me.
That is
We're
not a
already 3 weeks
segue
in.
for ending. That is a segue instead to talk about some really interesting matchups to me. And that is that the Ravens have a double header. They're playing versus the Warriors. They're playing versus the Kings. We talked about this a little bit earlier. And we had mentioned it. It kind of got everyone around the room talking about what they thought the Kings and Warriors were going to be like. A lot of undefeateds still. So immediately, I know that I think I heard a couple, at least, saying the Warriors, if anyone's going to beat them, it might be them. Or if anyone's going to beat the Warriors, it's the Ravens. That's the one that we heard. Which is interesting because while the Ravens look good, like Warriors undefeated, right? The Ravens have claimed, I think after the kickoff and coming into some of these weeks, especially last week when we were like, oh my God, everyone undervalued you. Why? And you're insane. What's going on? They said that the Warriors were their kryptonite. The Warriors play a style of Smite that just beats them.
Yep.
And so, Jmac, I'm going to go to you. With that new information, with that kind of refreshed in your brain, do you change your mind maybe about this being a point where the Warriors are going to lose instead the Ravens are going to have a tough time again?
If we were to dial this back to week 1 of SPL, I would say, that fits the bill. And especially in kickoff land. I mean, that's where we saw in the kickoff where the Oni Warriors just absolutely ran over that team. And going into the new season, I said that that's probably their hardest matchup for the Highland Ravens is the Oni Warriors, because they're just completely unhinged in their play style compared to every other team in the league. I mean, even if you take some of the more aggressive styles of teams like the Dragons, like the Leviathans are trying to identify, there's at least a structure in their aggression and the way that they do things. The Oni Warriors are just picking whatever they want to at this point. I think now that the Ravens have had time to kind of see how the Oni Warriors are doing things, see how the meta is developing, see how the changes across the map are kind of affecting the state of the game and slowing things down a bit, the comeback mechanics that have been implemented as well. I think this is a better chance now for the Ravens to do so. And now they've had time together to kind of learn how everybody wants to play, kind of recuperate. And especially after the performance this weekend, specifically from Hurrywin, I think I have even more confidence in this team. And I don't think, one, that we'll ever see Hurrywin get Yamoja again after the nasty performance that he put on in his final set this weekend. No chance he sees that. Two, I think that the Ravens have enough diversity in their God pools that it's hard to really ban them out entirely. You take Venenu, who played 6 different picks in his first games of the SPL, even going all the way down to like Zeus's and Alpwash's, things that weren't really meta at that time. Nobody's really playing Zeus, but Venenu played it, did well on that one, went like 9-1 or 9-2 that game. Played Alpwash, went like 5-0 in the games that he's played on that one. I think there's just enough diversity on this Ravens draft that they not necessarily will catch the Warriors off guard, but they have ways to now deal with the Warriors that they didn't have coming into the kickoff and coming into the beginning of the season.
It's definitely one that I think is interesting. Speaking of that Yamoja play, by the way, Trelli, I don't know about you. I've watched that clip through like 6 times since then. A lot of it was because I was like, damn, I did a good job. I was real proud of myself. But do you agree? Like, do you think that this is just a matchup that the Ravens have now warmed up into, or do you think this is going to be kind of a repeat of kickoff?
I tend to disagree a bit. I think that this matchup, like the Ravens have stated, is just difficult for them to play into. Historically, they don't do well with the wonkier, more aggressive style of composition. If they get off to a bad start,
You got to talk about Pagon and Van.
Yeah, sometimes that's just it. If they get off to a bad start, whereas the Kings, they're okay with falling down a bit early kills wise. They're going to let a few plays come through. They're going to give away a few buffs, but they're going to stay well farm-wise, which I think the Ravens will be fine with if they want to take an early. So if I had to give an edge to the Ravens in one of those matchups, it still looks King-sided. I'm still biased towards the Kings, but I think they have a better chance of finding a win versus the Kings because unfortunately, when the Warriors bring some sort of a pick they're not expecting, the Ravens, they kind of stall a bit, and they don't look their same style of play.
Any crazy Ravens Warriors thoughts, or are you pretty much...
No, I think a lot of the
got
individual.
One of each.
Yeah, no, we got
a tiebreaker.
So we got one of each. So do I tie break?
Or you could waffle. I mean, I'm not going to.
You could say the Ravens are going to dominate both matchups, and that'll be a third take.
God, but I don't believe that at all.
How much do you
I
want?
think they can win both. I don't think they're going to dominate both.
We've got a chest of gems.
No, I'm not willing to lie.
Okay.
I think the Ravens could win both matchups. The Ravens could win both matchups. I don't think they're going to win both. I think more feasible is one or neither of the two.
Yeah.
Specifically against the Warriors, I think Ven is playing some of his best Smite right now, and so I think matches up better into Pagon than maybe Bolt's matchups of past. I think the mental and the play style is in a stronger spot. That said, I don't know if we've seen Ven tested on the aggression scale just yet. So
you just had them both sitting at a table together. Did it seem like there was maybe any animosity between the two of them?
No,
they really wanted to like Ven wanted to.
No, actually, it was when BMT brought up the Kings versus the Bolts semifinal at Worlds that Ven was like. Because the Bolts had massive leads in a couple of those games and then threw underneath tier 2 towers, and BMT was like, "Yeah, I remember this one game against the Bolts where like we were battling against the Bolts and we were behind, and then they made some mistake under tier 2, and you just feel Ven go like I know what you're talking about. I remember throwing that game."
And that's what worries me is like the meta is about to shift a bit to where these mages that I think Ven has been playing a lot are going to be gone. Whereas, I think Pagon's going to be like, oh, I've got 12 other gods that I can play that are still going to be good. So those are the things that you have to think about.
Well, the other match that they have, and we've already kind of touched on this, but they're playing the Kings as well, right? Ravens Kings.
Yep.
And we actually have a little hype trailer for that one. So I'm excited to see what we have to offer for Ravens and Kings.
We're so hyped.
Camelot Kings versus the Highland Ravens. The Highland Ravens rushed out of the gate swinging this season, drafted last in the division, but now eyeing for the top spot. And they're about to face their toughest opponent yet. Can they dethrone the Camelot Kings? Tune in and find out.
I'm going to answer your question, Jmac. No, that's what everybody said so far, and so that's where I'm going to be leaning. I don't know. We'll find out on Sunday. I think that one's going to be fun. That I will to dive further into that. Right, it could have some standing implications. Right, if the Ravens lose there, then suddenly it gets a lot more difficult for them to try and take first in that division. If they win, it becomes a lot more murky. I think if they can beat the Warriors and the Kings, and then if the Warriors beat the Kings,
That's
suddenly
guaranteed.
you're right up at the top.
Yep.
Yeah, you're feeling a lot better about it. And we'll have to find out, as you said on Sunday.
You didn't say blood feud a single time. Just
I did not
something
say-
something to consider.
I did not say
and
that.
this would have been another blood feud if you think
Although
about it. Because Pagon has spilled a lot of Venenu's blood.
Although I will say, because I believe that's a Sunday matchup there, and it's unfortunately one that I'm not going to be able to immediately witness,
Yeah.
but you better believe I will have my phone out waiting to see if there's a Betty Smite tweet or video that pops up immediately
After.
if we start seeing some nonsense happen in the mid lane.
The only other matchup this week that I was really looking at, and we want to kind of rush through this anyway, so honestly, I'm just going to glance over it because it's not the two we just talked about, the Ravens Warriors, Ravens Kings. Those you should watch all the SPL.
Yeah.
You need to be there for those. Those are going to be the best sets this week, I think, hands down. But another one that I'm personally excited for to see is going to be Dragons and Leviathans, just because this is another one that feels like it could have a little bit of a shake-up in the standings.
Spice.
What does that say? It says Serpentine Standings Shake-Up.
Serpentine.
Serpentine,
It's an
Serpentine.
alliteration.
That's actually way better than what I wrote, which was just standings and implications. It is like, it's one of those things, right? Dragons have kind of left us wanting a little more, but they've been okay. Lasber's been doing really well. On the other side, the Levi's have definitely left me personally wanting a little bit more. And so I feel like this is one that comes down to maybe a little bit of adapting versus Lasbra, how well they're going to be playing Lasbra. And I think we're going to be going into this during the match, Jmac, but has been playing like some not so carry style of guy. I mean, like you played in Athena this last week and didn't do too well. Levi's adapting has actually been, at least fantasy wise, and I think KD wise, and I think most everything else wise, has been a leader for that squad. And so that one
Bring on the
is one.
invades,
In fact,
baby.
you know what? And because I'm trying to truncate this to fit in the next 2 minutes. What we'll do is just real quick. Dragons versus Leviathans. Who do you have?
Got Dragons for this one.
Dragons.
Dragons.
That's 3-0. I don't have to say anything. Look,
I don't know. The Leviathans just haven't been
facilitator.
consistent
Yeah.
yet.
I just want to see the invades, man.
I want to see more fine OK King Arthur, though, because that was looking...
Vintage.
There it is.
Vintage.
Well,
I stand by that, by the way.
That was good.
what day is that? Hold on. Let me
I think
find
that's
out.
opening. I think that's opening set.
Oh my God, is that the opening set?
Is that... Watch
That is
that
not
right
the
now?
opening
That's
set.
not the opening
Hounds
set.
and Leviathans is the opening set.
Ah.
Monday?
Monday. We'll be
May
at home
6th.
chilling.
Dragons versus Leviathans kick off the day at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Leviathans is a way different team. So,
Oh, man.
Hold on. Maybe I am throwing my hat in the ring here and agreeing with the Dragons. That one's going to be a really fun one to watch. And I'm really excited for it. You guys should all be excited for week 3 as well. I think it's going to be a doozy, of course. Only a couple more weeks after this one before we go, I think, to like a week break and then playoffs, right? So things are going to get real crazy towards the end. 2 teams at the top go straight to Masters. The other 6 have to play for their seeding and stuff like that to get there. And so it's going to be incredibly fun. And I'm excited for it. So thanks for tuning in, at least here on SPL Waiting Room. Make sure that you're watching every single set of SPL that you can this weekend. And if you can't, cancel your other plans.
That's right.
And confirm us on your schedule. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on The Waiting Room.
Bye.
Oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah, yeah. I'm back in that. Hey, where you going? Hey,